Hello, everybody. I hope you are excited today because we have brought to you Mission Nutrition. We are super pumped today to be able to offer you a fun and interactive event, and we have partnered up with some really great people to be able to bring this event to you today. So thank you for taking the time to join us. We hope that you have a great time. We hope that you are able to walk away with some super solid recipes that you can whip up at any point. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We have a couple of people who will be monitoring that and will be able to answer those questions as we go along.
All right, so before we jump into our wonderful, super exciting event, we first wanted to acknowledge the land that we are on. Arizona State University's 4 campuses are located in the Salt River Valley on ancestral territories of Indigenous peoples, including the Acamel, Otham, Pima, and Peepash Maricopa Indian communities, whose care and keeping of these lands allow us to be here today. The First Year Success Center is honored to serve Indigenous students in partnership with American Indian Student Support Services.
So we've got a few different things that we'll be cooking up for you today. So obviously we're going to start off with some introductions. Like I mentioned, we've got a few different groups bringing this event to you today. So who exactly are we? What do we have to offer? And how can you as a student interact with those? We'll also be obviously cooking with Chef Kent. We are super pumped to be able to have him today. We'll also have a section about asking Chef Kent. So maybe you've got a specific ingredient that you've got at home, and maybe you want to wait, especially to figure out how to switch it up a little bit. Maybe you've got a can of tuna that's been sitting in the back of your pantry this whole time, and you're not really sure what to do with it other than make a tuna sandwich. So one thing that you can do, bring it up with Chef Kent. Let's see what we can help make for you today. We've also got some really great nutrition resources that are accessible to students both on and off campus. And for joining us today, you will be entered into a raffle. We've got some prizes to be able to give away at the end. So definitely stick around for the whole event so we can make sure we can get you entered into that. All right, so we've got, obviously one of the people bringing this group to you today is the Kitchen Cafe. Chef Kent, you want to tell us what the Kitchen Cafe is?
I would love to. Well, on our downtown campus, we have an awesome little kitchen here called the Kitchen Cafe, where our students actually work and create food. So I think some of my students are actually in the meeting right now. So it's going to be super awesome, and they get to see and really talk about the great things we do. So as part of our nutrition program, we try to get our students ready to go out in the real world. Okay? Now, we're not a culinary school. That's not the idea of our campus. Our idea is that we prepare people to go on into careers and be managers and be food service directors, running hospitals, running country clubs, being in charge of people. And it's been my personal experience that sometimes your manager doesn't necessarily know what you do each day, and they can make your life miserable because some people think just food appears out of nowhere. So in my class, students come in and learn how to work in a real kitchen. We're open to the public. People can come up, they can order food, and our students actually get the experience of actually making real food in a real life restaurant. That way, later on in their career, when they're managing employees, when they're the boss, they can be a better manager because they have some idea of what a line cook does every day, or a prep cook does, or a server, and it makes them better managers. So we love to focus on real world aspects and really get our students prepared to go out and get a job in the future.
Awesome, thank you for that. We've also got Pitchfork Pantry. Lindsay, please enlighten us. What is the Pitchfork Pantry?
Hi everyone, my name's Lindsay Pacheco and I am with the Pitchfork Pantry. So the Pitchfork Pantry is a student-run on-campus food pantry that serves ASU students. So as long as you are an ASU student, you're more than welcome to come into one of our distribution locations or come into one of our pop-ups and pick up a prepackaged bag of non-perishable food. We also frequently have at our pop-up events perishable items. So we have things like produce and grains, dairy, meat products, just depending on the day. The best way to keep up to date on our locations and hours. If you want to go to the next slide for the locations. So these are all of our locations, but the best way to keep up to date on everything is to find us on Facebook and Instagram at ASU Pitchfork Pantry. You can find the link to sign up and you can keep up to date on our events. And if you want to volunteer, there's also information about that on there as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Lindsay. And of course, the First Year Success Center. Amy, come on, tell us, what is the First Year Success Center? What do we do?
Hello, everyone. My name is Amy and I work with the First Year Success Center. So hopefully you've heard of us before. If not, we do a lot of different things. So we have coaches who work with first year students, transfer students, sophomore students. We can help students with study tips. It can be an academic goal. If you just want to talk about how you're doing this semester, maybe you have a personal goal and you want to try to start a business, maybe start going to the gym more, read so many books. We're here to just assist you and serve the ASU community. We want to make sure that students are being successful inside of the classroom and outside of the classroom. So we will have a little bit more information at the end about how you can get in contact with a coach. And we also put together several different events throughout the school year, just like this, for students and the ASU community. So feel free to find us on social media as well and learn a little bit more.
Awesome. And it's important to note too that your coach is also a student within your academic college. So if you're a WP Carey student, guess what? You get a WP Carey coach. We want to make sure that you got that really custom, personal, individualized attention from your coach, in addition to all of the other amazing things that Amy says that we do as well. So now, the moment you're all here for, let's today cook with Chef Kent.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for coming and cooking with me today. We have two really quick and fun recipes I developed. So the idea of the recipes today is they're inspired by items that you can find in the Pitchfork Pantry. We actually host a Pitchfork Pantry location right outside our kitchen here on the downtown campus. So what I did when I created these recipes, I literally went in the back, I moved stuff around, and I found a bunch of ingredients that they had readily available. So that's the kind of the idea of this cooking demo today. Plus, we're trying to make really easy, quick things that you can make at home that are going to be nutritious and delicious at the same time. So hopefully you're ready to begin. The first item we're going to make is a rice pilaf. So rice pilaf, it sounds fancy, but it's just a rice dish that we're going to put a whole bunch of healthy stuff in. But before we start though, my idea is to keep this a very interactive and fun little chat cooking show. So I'm gonna have a bunch of questions I'm gonna ask during the day, and I want you to go ahead, go to the chat and answer my question as best as you can. My first question today is actually inspired by my week. On Friday, I get my first COVID vaccine shot. I'm super excited about getting it because it's been not that great teaching during COVID right now. So I'm super excited. So I wanna know from you guys, what are you most excited about when this COVID epidemic is over? So go into the chat right now and write what you're most excited about, what you're looking forward to doing. So go in the chat right now, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started. The first thing we're gonna do when we make our rice is we're gonna heat up some water. Super easy, anybody can do this. We're just gonna boil some water, okay? So with rice, we'll always have a ratio of 2 to 1, 2 parts water to 1 part rice. So I have 1.5 cups of rice here. So that means I have 3 cups of water. So this recipe can be super duper easy, or you can add a bunch of really fun stuff to it. I have a bunch of fun stuff laying around my kitchen, so I'm gonna add a bunch of fun stuff to it. I have my water here, and I got some canned black beans. Just plain canned black beans out of a can, very easy. I rinsed them off really good. I'm gonna dump those in the water. Next, I have some canned corn. Just laying around, canned corn, super easy ingredient. Dump it right in there. Next, some diced tomatoes. Put those in there too. I have an onion. I just had an onion laying about my refrigerator. So I think you'll be really good in a Southwestern rice pilaf. So I'm gonna dice this onion up. real quick, I'm going to put that in there too. While I'm doing that, Miss Ashley, do we have any great answers in our chat yet?
Yes, we have quite a few people that are excited to go to sporting events, finally. Some people are excited to go to concerts, to breathe oxygen instead of CO2, to go to classes in person, to travel, to go to the beach with some friends and actually eat in a restaurant.
Yes. I like all those answers. Those are some great answers. So I got my onion diced up. I'm going to put it in there. Then I literally just looked around my pantry to see what I could find. And I found one of those little cans of green chilies. Have you guys seen those? I love those things. Great flavor in these green chilies. And I like a little spice in my food. So I'm going to dump those in there. Last, I have some chili powder, just some plain red chili powder. I want some flavor in there, and always salt and pepper. I'm just going to sprinkle some salt and pepper right into my dish. Once that's done, all I got to do is add my rice. So I got a whole bunch of great flavors, and I pour my rice in there. I'm going to give it a good stir. Make sure all that rice is covered with our water. I'm going to put my lid back on it. I'm going to bring it back up to a boil. So that's going to take maybe a minute or two to come back up to a boil. But I have another question for you guys. So I always try to look on the positive side of things. So I want to know, what do you think the best part of this pandemic we've been going through is? See, me personally, I got a great one. I only have to shave like one time a week because I'm wearing this mask all the time. So I'm looking a little scruffy right now. I'm just so used to only shaving one time a week. It's great. It saves me a ton of time. So that is my positive from this pandemic, one shaving a week. So as you guys answer that, we're going to talk about rice a little bit. So there is a right and a wrong way to cook rice, okay? If you ever had rice that's just gummy and sticky and not very good, we didn't really cook it the right way. The proper way to cook rice is we're going to bring it up to a boil. Then we're going to turn the heat down to a real low simmer, okay? And we're going to cook that rice. Now, depending on the type of rice you have, some of them cook longer, some of them cook shorter. Like if you have like a big long grain brown rice, that may take up to 45 minutes to cook. Right now, I'm using an Uncle Ben's converted brown rice. It only takes 20 minutes. Some rices like jasmine, they cook really fast, maybe for 25, 30 minutes. So it's kind of up to the rice how long it's going to take. But we don't want to just boil this rice. If we boil it, it's going to break that rice down. It's going to make it gummy. It's going to make it sticky. And ideally, we want our rice to be really flaky and have nice texture to it. So we boil it. Once it comes up to a boil, we drop it down to a simmer. And we cook it at a simmer for the vast majority of the cooking time. Okay. All right, Miss Ashley, do you have any good positive views on this pandemic we've been going through?
So a lot of people have said that they are grateful for more time with family and friends. A couple of people have said that they've been trying new recipes. So lots of good time with family, making connections with other people, and being able to stay inside more.
Awesome. So there's always a positive, no matter how bad the experience is, always a positive. So I just kind of moved my rice to the side. I got it on a low simmer. I'm going to cook it. Now, here's the next key with rice. When it gets almost done, we want to turn the heat off, make sure that lid's on, and just let it finish cooking kind of without the heat, okay? Give it lots of time. Rice is very forgiving, okay? So just let it kind of cook in its own steam, its own heat. That's going to finish the cooking process. And that's going to make sure you don't overcook your rice. Just nothing's worse than just mushy, overcooked rice. So follow the package directions, cook it until it's almost at that time, then just turn the heat off. Move it to the side and let it finish cooking under its own heat. That's going to just make sure you have great, fluffy, delicious rice.
Hey,
Now,
Chef, we do have a question about rice.
yes.
Should we wash the rice before we cook it, or is it just good to go and cook?
It definitely depends on the rice. Some rices are much starchier than others. So in the Kitchen Cafe this semester, we're doing basmati rice. We're doing Indian food. So we're doing a saffron basmati rice. And that rice tends to be very sticky. So I soak it overnight. I wash it really, really well to get all the starch off. Same thing with like a sushi rice. You definitely want to wash that off. You want to try to get all the starch off that as much as you possibly can. But then there are other rices you actually want the starch. If anyone's had risotto, the idea of risotto is it kind of breaks down, it turns into a porridge, and the starch from the rice actually thickens up the risotto. So some rices you definitely want to rinse off, some you don't. I can't give you a set, always do it or always don't do it. It really depends on the rice. So I know some you always rinse off. Some you want that kind of stickiness that's in the starch. That's a very, very good question. So let's go back and talk about that rice dish just a little bit more. I love rice because it's almost a whole protein, okay? But we did something very important when we make this rice dish. We added black beans to it. When you add beans to rice, it's actually a full, complete protein. So you can get lots of protein from this rice dish. We get all the amino acids we need without protein. Okay? So if you're a vegetarian or if you're vegan, this is a great dish for you. It's healthy, it's nutritious, and it gets you the nutrition you need. So while that's sitting there, it's going to be about 20 minutes. So we got to go on to our next recipe. Our next recipe is going to be a ramen noodle Penang. Now, Penang is just kind of a Thai word that we use for a peanut sauce. So we're going to take just basic ramen noodles and make them into a really fun Penang sauce. So to make this dish, we have some hot water boiling and we're going to cook ramen noodles. I think pretty much everyone's cooked ramen noodles before, but I have my boiling water and I'm going to cook these ramen noodles. Now, as opposed to most times when we cook ramen noodles, I am not going to put the seasoning packet in with these noodles. What I find when I cook this recipe, if I put that seasoning packet in, these noodles just get way, way, way too salty. So I don't want to add the seasoning packet. I'm just going to put them in plain, unsalted water. So we just get that noodle ramen taste versus like a bunch of fake chicken flavor or beef flavor or shrimp. Now, I am a professional chef. I do this for a living. I'm a pretty good cook, but I really like ramen noodles. I have two boys, 12 and 8, and they like ramen noodles too. So I've eaten ramen noodles more than I care to share in the recent years. So I want to know from you guys in the chat, what is your favorite comfort food? Now, when I have ramen noodles, it gives me comfort. I really like the flavor. I know it's a little silly, but it's a very fun comfort food for me. So in the chat, please, guys, I want to know what your favorite comfort food is while these noodles cook for me. While you guys are in the chat, I'm just going to move these noodles around a little bit, try to break them up some. We're just going to cook these noodles. It's going to take about maybe 5-6 minutes to cook these noodles. And I'm just going to stir them as we go. Now, most of the time when we cook ramen noodles, we just take them from the pot and we put them in our bowl and we eat our ramen noodles. These noodles, we're going to cook a little bit more. We're going to saute them up and make our sauce. So when we're cooking these, we want to cook them just a little bit less than we normally would, because we cook them all the way. If we cook them for 8 minutes, they tend to get a little bit overcooked when we go to finish our sauce. So I'm going to cook these for about 5 or 6 minutes, definitely till they're cooked, but not all the way that I normally would. All right, ladies, do we have any great comfort foods down in our chat?
We do, and we have a question. So I'll let you know some of the comfort foods first. So there's ice cream, cake, barbecue chips, ramen, pizza, mac and cheese. And then there's also this one really cool one, a Persian dish called rice and gourmezabzi. Sorry if I'm butchering that. home fried chicken and mashed potatoes and gravy, tikka masala, French fries, and Thin Mints. And then we have a question.
Girl Scout season, that is a good answer for Girl Scout season.
Is there a healthy way to replicate the chicken ramen flavor?
Well, what I do a lot is I use a low sodium and a fat-free chicken broth instead of that little ramen packet. So typically I'll just buy that at the store, buy it in the carton. So you get that flavor, but it's not just packed with all that sodium that those little packets are full of. Now, I'm not saying those packets are bad for you. I don't believe in like bad foods. I don't want to vilify any foods. I think all foods can be good foods, but some we just got to watch our moderation on a little bit. So like all that sodium, there's a bunch of fat in there. It's not bad for you. So I don't want everyone to think that. I don't think there are any bad foods, but we can definitely reduce that just by buying a store-bought low fat, low sodium chicken broth. And I use that all the time. All right, guys. So my noodles are about done. So I'm going to drain these noodles. We have to be super careful when we do this, but I'm going to go over to my sink. I'm going to drain these noodles. I just use the colander and I drained them. And there's still a little bit of liquid in there. I don't know if you guys can see that too well, but I still want a little bit of liquid in these noodles because I'm going to use that to start building my sauce. Okay. All right, guys, before we start doing that, though, I got another question for you. Personally, I hate peas. They are my least favorite vegetable of all time. Like, just looking at this kind of gives me a little queasy feeling in my stomach right now, okay? So I want to know in the chat, what is your least favorite vegetable, okay? And then also, I want to know what your favorite vegetable is. For me, I love Brussels sprouts, okay? I'm the only one in my family that likes Brussels sprouts, so I'll make them and I just eat them all. I love Brussels sprouts. So Brussels sprouts, by far, my favorite vegetable, especially if I coat them with like bacon fat and some walnuts or something like that. And my least favorite, oh, I hate these peas. They are so gross. I cannot stand them. Yeah. But we're going to add them to this dish because I know a lot of people do like it. So my next step is I'm going to get a saute pan. And I'm going to get it super duper hot. Okay. Now, I am a big fan of one-pot cookery. If you want to cook it in that same pan you cook the noodles in, that's fine too. Okay. But it's going to work a little bit better in my saute pan. So I'm going to let my pan heat up just a little bit more while we hear from you guys. What are some of your favorite and least favorite vegetables?
All right, so we have some people that really don't love eggplant, but then we also have some people, yeah, and then we have some people really like broccoli. Other people don't care for green beans but love zucchini. A lot of love for mushrooms and onions. There's also some love for Brussels sprouts. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. So I want to know if you guys know this. Sometimes our palate is based on our genetics. Some people taste foods very differently than others. Like me personally, I taste bitter flavors very, very strongly. So things like sugar snap peas that some people think are super sweet, I taste them as super bitter. It's just the way my genetics and my taste buds are worked out. Or like IPA beers. Some people love IPA beers, but for me, it's like sucking on a roll of pennies. It's just so bitter that I don't even like it at all. So I just think that's kind of interesting that sometimes our taste buds are based on our genetics. We don't have any control of it. Sometimes you just don't like food because you're not genetically predisposed to liking that food. So I got my pan here. It's nice and hot. Now I'm gonna do a little saute. We're gonna start with just some plain olive oil. And it's moving around my pan real good. That's what I'm looking for, almost like a little stir fry. We're heating up real nice, okay? So you guys saw that little flame? That's fine. The hotter our pan gets, the least likely that our food's gonna stick. If you ever try to cook food with a cold pan, it sticks really, really bad. You always have a problem. You guys saw I'm not having any sticking issues because my pan's nice and hot and I'm moving stuff around. Okay? So I got my vegetables. I'm gonna saute these up a little bit. Now I looked around my refrigerator at home and I had about half a rotisserie chicken at home. So I brought that in because that'll be really good in here. I just took about half a rotisserie chicken, I shredded it up, and I threw it in there. It gets me a little bit of extra protein. Okay. Now I'm ready to add my noodles in. Right into that pot. I'm gonna stir. So now we're picking up a lot of good flavors. Last thing we're gonna do is just some peanut butter. This is a good part of that Penang sauce. This is why we wanted a little bit of moisture still in our noodles, because that little bit of moisture is gonna mix in with that peanut and kind of turn into a lovely sauce for us to make our nice Penang sauce. I'm gonna keep stirring, keep stirring, keep stirring, and that peanut butter is gonna start to melt. Now, next thing I'm gonna do, a little bit of soy sauce, just a little bit. What I do is I'll typically go up for Chinese and grab a couple extra of those little soy sauce packets. I'll put them in my drawer, and it's a great thing just to add to your sauce to get a little bit of that soy sauce flavor. And also, I had some sweet chili sauce just laying around my cabinet at home. So I love spice, so I'm add a little bit of that sweet chili sauce. Gonna get me a little bit more flavor and a little bit more heat. And that was just super quick, super fast, super easy. And now I have an awesome ramen noodle dish. Way cooler than just plain old ramen noodles. So this dish, it has vegetables in there. And it also, puts a lot of calories inside our dish. A lot of times when we eat food from a food pantry, one thing it really lacks is just calories. And sometimes our body needs those calories to move around, to act. Our brain needs them to work, especially if you're a student. So peanut butter is one of the best ways just to pump some calories into your system. It's super filling. After you eat this dish, you're going to be full for hours. So that's why I really like adding that peanut butter to it. It just makes a really fun, little healthy dish. All right. Oh, I think my rice is about done over here. All right. So I'm going to move this right to this side. And let's see how our rice is doing.
We have a question in the chat. How many servings does this dish make?
Okay. So this is definitely 2 to 4 servings. Okay, that's more than one. It's 2 packets of those ramen noodles. So that's going to be 3 to 4 servings, depending on how hungry you really are. So yes, that is not a 1-serving dish. It's more something you would make and, have with your roommate or something like that. Or you could put it in the refrigerator. It'll hold for 7 days. You can eat on it for quite a few days after that. All right, guys. So our rice has been cooking. Remember, I cheated. I used that converted rice, so it cooks a lot faster. Open that up. And hopefully you guys can see this rice looks awesome. Okay. We have tons and tons of great colors in here. We got our black beans. We got our corn. We got our onions. We got a little bit of heat from those green chilies. And I don't know if you can see on Zoom, but our rice is light, it's fluffy, it's not sticking together. This is what rice pilaf really should be. We don't want an overcooked mess. We want rice just like that. And it was super easy to do. And this is making like 10 servings of rice right here. This is great. You can make this and you have a healthy vegetarian little snack you can heat up all week long. And if you wanted to, you can add even more to it. You could put a little bit of cheese on it. You could put some cilantro and add just a little bit of flair to it. A little bit of cilantro, a little bit of flavor. Or maybe you could add a lime. I really like the lime in my Penang sauce. So I'm going to take a squeeze of this lime, go over here to my Penang, squeeze a little bit of lime. It's just
Looks
another layer of
delicious.
flavor.
We have a couple
Okay.
questions in the chat and a few comments.
Okay.
Someone's saying, I've heard that the more colors there are in a dish, the healthier it is. Is that true?
Well, it definitely, most of the time it is. Most of the time it definitely is. Another great thing about actually this pandemic we've gone through is we have a summer camp program here called Camp Crave. And normally we have kids 8 to 12 that come and cook here with the kitchen with me. But we couldn't do that this year. So obviously we went online with it. And I had 400 kids sign up for Camp Crave to cook with me. And one of the questions I ask all the kids is I give them a challenge. I have them go home and count how many colors are in their dinner that night. And we have a little competition who can come up with the most colors. So most of the time, more colors are definitely more health, especially those green colors, those bright colors like that purple eggplant that someone hates. I don't know why. So it is a great way to kind of gauge how healthy your dish is.
Perfect. Thank you. And then could you freeze any of the leftovers for these meals?
So the noodles do not freeze very well. They do not freeze very well at all. But this rice freezes awesome. What I would recommend is putting it into a baggie, like a Ziploc baggie, and flatten it out so it's nice and flat. That way you can put it in your freezer. It stacks really nice in the freezer, and you can pull out one portion at a time and microwave that up and eat it just like that. So the rice does freeze very well. The noodles, though, not so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, well, that's about all I have for recipes. Hope you guys had fun. Hope you enjoyed cooking with me. And I hope you learned 2 super easy dishes that you can make in, I don't know, 20 minutes if you need it.
All right. Thank you, Chef Kent. Like, y'all, I'm sitting here and I'm impressed. Like, we had colors, the dicing skills, excellent work. Like, thank you for showing us 2 fabulous recipes. I hope you're ready for the next section because now is your chance to ask Chef Kent about specific ingredients you have. Maybe you found like a random box of food in the back of your pantry. Maybe there's something weird in your fridge where you're like, I don't know what to do with this. Now is your time to throw us a quick little thing and let's see maybe some of those things that you can use to spice up with it. So feel free to drop those in the chat and let's see what we can get cooking with Chef Kent, who will not be cooking with it. He's just going to tell you what you can do.
Well, I'll go ahead and start while you guys are in the chat. So I think we all have a couple cans of tuna in our pantry. I know I definitely do. One thing that I like to do with the tuna is I'll actually make it a pasta dish out of it. There's a dish called a Putanesca, which is tomatoes and capers and all these like onions and acidy flavors, lots of lemon. And typically we would serve it with like shellfish, but it does really, really well with tuna. So just a basic noodle dish, and I'll make a hearty tomato sauce, and I add things like capers to it. It adds more brine and more saltiness, and I actually enjoy it with a nice can of tuna. You can mix that in. It takes away the strong tomato sauce, takes away some of that tuna can taste, so you can barely even taste the tuna, but it adds a ton of protein to a normally kind of a low protein dish. So that is my go-to at my house for that random little can of tuna I have laying around in the pantry. If anyone has any other ideas, we can hear them.
Yeah, we know that we have a lot of people who are not huge fans of eggplant today, but we do have some that are willing to try it, but they want to know what's the best way to cook it.
Okay, so, well, the best way, but probably not the healthiest, is to deep fry it and make eggplant parmesan. That is by far my favorite eggplant dish. But we have a really cool Middle Eastern recipe called baba ganoush, where we take eggplant and we like grill it or roast it. So what you'll do is you'll take an eggplant, cut it in half, and make skewered lines with your knife, kind of like you're making a checkerboard. Brush it with garlic and olive oil and roast it off in the oven. And you actually want it to burn. So even if you're the worst cook in the world, you're gonna be fine because you kind of want that caramelized flavor. After the eggplant gets nice and caramelized and super roasted, we scrape all that eggplant off into a dish, and we can add things like yogurt or tahini or more garlic and olive oil, and it's a great dipping dish. I love it. So baba ganoush is another one of my favorite go-tos for eggplant. A couple of years ago in my garden at home, I had a giant eggplant bush, and I was just looking for ways to get rid of eggplant. So my favorite way is roasting it, grilling it, or just deep frying for chicken parmesan or eggplant parmesan.
That sounds really good.
All right, what's
We
next?
have
This is fun. I like
a
it.
couple other questions. People are asking about a lot of different foods. Somebody's asking, how could you use quinoa in a dish?
Okay, I am a huge fan of quinoa. Good high protein grain. It holds really well, but man, it's hard for even me to eat straight quinoa. Okay, it has a little bit of a flavor, a little bit of a texture I don't like. So when I make quinoa dishes, I mix them 50-50 with a brown rice. Make a pilaf kind of like what we did here today, but I'll go 50-50 with rice and quinoa. So if you use like an Uncle Ben's converted rice just like this, takes about 20 minutes to cook. Quinoa also takes 20 minutes to cook. They go together perfectly. They both have the same ratio, 2 parts liquid to 1 part quinoa or rice. So that is my go-to because like honestly, quinoa is good for you, but straight quinoa is a little bit rough. So I like to mix it 50-50. Then I add other stuff to it like black beans or corn or other things that I just like and that I enjoy. And that's kind of how I make my quinoa. It just makes it a lot more palatable to me. And well, and also quinoa can get kind of expensive too. So cutting it with rice, it's really my favorite way to go. So 50-50, cut it with rice. That's my answer for that.
Okay, awesome. And that kind of goes into one of our other questions. Somebody said that they love rice, but they want to know of ways to cook with it by like cutting calories, but still like making it a good dish. So you said like you could combine it with quinoa, but what's something else you could do?
Yeah, and the more vegetables you add to it, is the better. Just like a dish like we did today. Pick some of your favorite vegetables, put it in there. Like rice can really be like a filler food for us. It doesn't have a ton of flavor on its own. So when you add other things to it, it just absorbs those flavors. So cooking it with tomatoes or throwing some chicken in there and cooking the chicken in there too is a great way to kind of cook that rice. And then we do have to watch our quantities a little bit with rice. Like I love rice. I eat it all the time, but like we can't, it's so easy for me. I could probably eat 2 cups of rice, no problem. That's a lot for a portion. So really just kind of watching your portion size and then trying to cut it with more vegetables. That'll really get your calorie count down a little bit and add a little bit more nutrition to the rice too.
Awesome. So the next question was, what is the best way to cook with leeks?
With leeks, okay. Leeks can be problematic. Leeks, they're a root vegetable. They grow in the ground. So leeks are super dirty, okay? So when we cook with leeks are about that big and they have a big green stalk on them. We can't eat that green stuff. It's just too fibrous. It's too gross. The only really usable part of the leek is down at the root end, right at the very bottom. It's just about that long. So when it starts to get green, you can't eat it. It's kind of gross. Okay. So we're only going to eat the very bottom of it. What I like to do is I'll take it and I'll cut it into kind of like a half moon. So I'll take that leek and I'll just cut it in half. So it looks like a half moon, and I'll cut those super, super thin. Okay. Then I'm going to take those and I'm going to soak them in water for a while because there's dirt all in leeks. And you got to get that dirt off. One of the worst things is you'll eat a leek dish and you'll kind of like bite into that grit, and it's not a fun experience. So the key to leeks is soaking it, washing them really, really well, letting them soak in water to get all that dirt off. Then once we get that dirt off, we take it out of the water, and you have to dry your leeks off. Okay. You need to drain them really well, use paper towels, get all the moisture off of it, and then you can throw it in any dish just like you would an onion. The flavor is very similar to kind of like a mild onion. So I've done lots of things with leeks. I've made a French onion soup where I used like 4 different types of onion. One of them was a leek. It has another really fun flavor. Sauteing it with other vegetables is really easy too. Just pretty much anytime you would use an onion, you can use a leek, but you got to make sure you wash it and only use the very bottom of the stem, just the white part, or else it's not going to be good at all. Good question.
Great tips. I've never cooked with leeks, so that helps me a lot. We do have a question. What is your favorite sugar-free dessert?
Oh, are there any good sugar-free desserts?
Right?
I've been using a lot of like stevia and Splenda lately for some of my dishes, and they work pretty well. You can actually like whip up meringues with stevia. So I guess I would substitute out. I don't know if there's too many just straight sugar-free desserts without a healthy amount of fake sugar in them. Let's see. I have made some dark chocolate desserts, like a dark chocolate terrain that didn't have any sugar in it. But it was part of like a trilogy of desserts. So it went with other things. By itself, it was pretty intense, chocolatey flavors. So I would suggest you gotta use a sugar alternative. And there's lots of great ones now. Big fan of stevia. I've used Splenda quite a few times too. Both work very well in desserts.
Awesome, those sound delicious. So our next question is, artichokes are, they like look really delicious, but they are kind of intimidating. How would you suggest cooking with those?
I have like PTSD from artichokes. I've had to clean cases of artichokes in my career. They're horrible. Buy the canned ones. They're too hard to do. You gotta like take all the leaves off. You gotta scoop the choke out. You gotta soak them in lemon juice so they turn brown in seconds. I worked for a chef who loved artichokes. I just remember cleaning these things for hours. Buy canned. They're good. I use them all the time. Buy the canned ones. Don't kill yourself cleaning artichokes. It's not. And plus, like one artichoke costs like $2. It's not even worth it. So buy the canned ones. That's my advice for artichokes. They're too hard. I don't even like doing them. They're not fun.
Great tips. Do we have any other questions, guys?
All right. Well, I really appreciate everyone. I appreciate everyone tuning in, spending a little time with me today. I love the questions. I was a little scared. That was super fun. I enjoyed that. So thank you everyone for tuning in with me. If you're ever downtown, come visit us at the Kitchen Cafe. We have a little bit of limited hours, but you can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. We have really yummy food, and it's all made by students. So you're helping support our students.
All right, thank you, Chef Kent. Thank you, Ashley and Megan, 2 of our coaches actually, who are at the First Year Success Center. Thank you for moderating the chat. Chef Kent, I am impressed. Thank you for agreeing with me about artichokes, to just buy the canned artichokes, and all of the other fabulous ingredients you talked about with us today. Stay tuned, folks. We have a couple other things to wrap up with you today, but can we get one final applause for Chef Kant and also your camera person for keeping it together today? Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to share some more resources with you that also have to do with nutrition. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to get these to you today. So some nutrition resources for you. One, we've got Live Well at ASU, very near and dear to all of us. As ASU students, this is something that you have access to. You can get tips on nutrition, healthy living, staying hydrated. Although it's March, it's technically almost summer. And so that's definitely going to be something that's very important. It also has tips about eating fruits and veggies. And you can even download Sparky's Wellness Handbook in order to learn how to build that best you, the you want to be. We've also got the Maricopa Healthy App, and this will help you connect to some low cost and no cost ways to live a healthy lifestyle in Maricopa County. So if you are within this county, great, excellent resource for you. If you're joining us from out of state, then maybe that's something that you can also look up as well to see what's local for you within your own community. And whenever you come back to visit us in Maricopa County, hey, this is something that's accessible to you. It also has info about some really great local farmers markets. We're in that fabulous season where we can go to a farmer's market and it's not really hot outside. So I would definitely recommend a really great place to go pick up some local veggies and also honey. We also have the Supercook app. So this is where you can add some ingredients to the website, and this app will tell you what can you make with some of those things that you may have. So almost like what Chef Kent did. Drop in some of those things that maybe you have just kind of laying around and see what exactly you can make with the ingredients you already have. Sometimes we see the ingredients and we're not able to formulate what the meal is, but this is a really great way to be able to do that and use some of those things at home.
All right, so today's event has been super, super fun. I am so excited to go revamp my ramen. This is the most I've ever learned about leeks, to be honest. So if you also enjoyed our event today, have no fear. We have a few more we want to put on your radar. So starting with one actually a little bit later this month that we have to celebrate Women's History Month. So March 23rd from 3 to 4 p.m., so about 2 weeks from now, we have a panel, ASU Women in Leadership, Strong, Passionate, and Confident. So we have a panel, a wide range of speakers ranging from the Dean of Students Office, undergraduate student government, and even a member from the First Year Success Center as well. So be on the lookout for this event. And then if you want to RSVP, feel free to do so at the link, links asu.edu/women leaders at ASU.
And then we also have another event, which don't have the flyer yet for, but want to put on your radar. This event will be April 7th from 4 to 6. But we will be partnering up with our Sun Devil Recreation Center to bring you an event that is just nice and calm. We'll be having some yoga, some coloring pages, making some hand scrub. It's going to be a good time. We recognize that spring break was canceled, and so this event will be kind of that spot for you to just breathe, be able to relax, enjoy yourself. Who doesn't love to color? So we wanted to give you an event right before finals that will really just sort of hopefully be a good time for you to chill. So stay on the look for that. You'll definitely be hearing from your success coaches about what exactly that event is going to look like and how you can also get involved and attend. And speaking of success coaches, are you interested in coaching? Because we're interested in coaching you. So if you are interested in meeting with a success coach, you can do that today. We've got our number listed here and also our website. If you're not sure who your coach is, then that's something that you can see on your My ASU page. But let's say you don't have a success coach, give us a call. We have so many students who would love to get to meet with you. We've got juniors, seniors, graduate students who really get to talk to you about what success looks like for you, whether that's getting an A in your classes or figuring out some new recipes to be able to cook at home. And so if you would just like to be able to connect with another student about your university experience, we'd love to be able to provide that connection for you.
And we have 2 raffle winners. So thank you for coming and attending today. And we put all of your names into a name wheel and we spun it. And our 2 winners are Miriam Schaefer and Kimberly Reed. So I'll be sending you both emails probably tomorrow to get all your info to get that taken care of. So congratulations.
All right, yay for our winners from the raffle. So that is basically our event for you today. I hope you've learned something new today about accessible ingredients, maybe some pantry staples that you have. I've learned a lot about leeks. I've learned a lot about eggplant. So I'm actually kind of excited to get out there and like try to cook an eggplant now. Does anyone have any questions for us? Any things that they wanted to be able to discuss before they head out today? Anything pops up in the chat, please let me know. All right. Well, folks, if you don't have any questions, we've loved having you. We really hope that you had a great time with this event. We had a great time at this event. We had a great time planning it. And definitely stay tuned for some more events, not just through the First Year Success Center, but from the College of Health Solutions, through Kitchen Cafe. Keep in touch with Pitchfork Pantry and a whole lot of other groups that are here to be able to support you as students. Anyone have any closing words from our team? All right, folks. In that case, happy Wednesday, and thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us.